My name is Carl Gregory, and I get to work with some of the biggest creators in the space to launch multi-5 and six-figure live events. And I started my first business at the age of 16. I felt so terrified when I first started because I felt so far behind, but I was able to push through that and overcome those limiting beliefs. So today, what I want to share with you is the 3 ways I was able to overcome these so you can reach your goals in record time. The first belief I sort of had to push past was thinking less. Now, a very common thing people have, and it's literally what I had for so long, was called analysis paralysis. I was thinking about all the ways and different outcomes that this could go wrong, that I actually didn't even spend the time finding out what the true outcome is. Back when I first started my real estate marketing agency when I was 16, one of the first pieces of advice I was told was to make 100 cold calls per day. But when I actually heard that piece of advice, I was already heavy breathing and stressing out. Like, what was running through my head was I'd have to call people who could be rude to me. I think it actually took me about 4 months before I started making cold calls because I was constantly running through my head, what could people say to me? What could go wrong? What if this happens? What if that happens? But one day, I think this was around March time, possibly, I think March, right, 2024, I woke up, checked my computer, and no one responded to my DMs or emails. And I was sitting there thinking like, I'm sick of this. So because I was feeling like I was failing so much, I just picked up the phone and started calling because this could not be as bad as what I was feeling right now. That first day was awful. Like, I was bad. It didn't go well. I think got told to F off maybe 5 times. But it did make me realize it actually wasn't as bad as I thought it would be at first. So I continued to make calls every single day for the next few weeks. And eventually, I think after just a few weeks, I think in like the start of April, end of March time, I got my first client. And it took me months to get to that point where I was finally ready to start making calls. But I realized thinking less and just running at it, not right, not perfect, just something, led to me actually moving forward and get over my fear of failure very quick. So think less and just sprint at it. So the second belief I sort of had to get my head around and had to think about in order to get past my fear of failure was changing my perspective on it. So for example, when I now do an action, I just see the response as feedback. And when you have feedback, that allows you to make better decisions because now you have clarity on what worked and what didn't. And if you can make better decisions, that means you can make progress. So I was able to wire myself, make myself think that whenever I took an action, I got feedback, which meant I was getting closer to my goal. I realized this about 8 months ago when I screamed down the phone for making a careless mistake. For a bit of context, basically, I wanted to improve my sales ability, so I wanted to get onto an offer as a setter, just kind of feel what it was like, learn all the ins and outs, and I could apply it to my clients, right? And it was a B2C real estate offer. After just a couple of weeks of being there, I was able to become the top setter, but it didn't come without its challenges. It did not come without its challenges at all. After just, I think, a week or two there, pretty much I was watching Netflix, just chilling. And then I had a call from my setter manager. I was confused at first why he was even calling me at this time in the evening. But once he started shouting at me, I did realize, yeah, okay, I understand it now. He started questioning me on a call that I had set earlier that day. It was someone who no-showed, but I put them in for a real reschedule. And just because I was able to reschedule them, I thought, oh, that's a win. I was able to get them back and put them back on the calendar. But then he started to ask me, did you get a tie down? Did you make him feel sorry for missing the call? Did you make him feel grateful for giving him the opportunity to again be on your calendar and get the chance to change his life? He asked me all those questions. And after like a huge long pause, I was like, nah, I didn't, sorry. And straight after that, a series of insults followed. And it did make me feel awful at the time. But thankfully, at least he then went on to train me on how to do it better next time. In that same call, he was like, no, all right, cool. We've got to do this instead. And I practiced what I should be saying. He was the prospect and I was the setter. And eventually I was able to, again, get that feedback that I was looking for. And it was in the days following that where I realized I shouldn't get down about this. I was able to get feedback, which now means I can make better decisions. So what I want you to do is whenever something doesn't go your way or you experience failure or criticism and you're scared to push yourself to that next stage, that next level where it could be 50K, it could be 100K a month, right? I want you to look at it as feedback because feedback allows you to make better decisions. And when you make better decisions, you can get closer to your goals. And that should make you really excited. The third and final thing that allowed me to get past my fear of failure was playing out the worst case scenario, because this is something I got from Hormozy, but I didn't really understand it until I actually experienced the worst case scenario. And I realized I wasn't in as bad of a position as I thought I would be if I experienced this. So recently I had a launch for one of my clients. We spent about $4,000 on ads across 10 days, and we were able to generate 3,600 registrants from that, which is insane. We did very well on the front end. But now fast forward to game day. So the launch is today. We are sending out final emails, checking everything, testing everything, and just dreaming about how big this is going to be. Then, as you can imagine, if something can go wrong, it does go wrong. So we started having issues with email providers getting our emails sent out. They were all landing in spam. And yeah, we did manage to get this fixed right before we went live, but it still greatly impacted show rate. We went from usually the one before that was at around 40%. This one was at like 22. Because of that, people literally just weren't able to get into the room, which was so infuriating at the time. And yeah, we did send out new emails after we were able to fix that like email issue, but the damage had already been done. Then the webinar began, and throughout of it was all going pretty smoothly from the people who did manage to get into the room. But then it comes to the pitch. Pretty much out of nowhere, his mic gets unplugged, disconnects, no one can hear him. People in the chat are going crazy, spamming it with angry faces, and he didn't realise he wasn't able to check the chat until he finished doing the pitch. And at that point, tons of people had already left. At that moment, I remember just sitting in my room and thinking, wow, that's just been robbed. I genuinely felt from all the hard work we put into that, the result we wanted was taken away from us, from something that was out of our control. Yes, you could have checked the chat consistently, which is, again, what we realised we have to do more consistently. But something like that, after we put in all that effort to set it up, launch, slides, promotion, ad spend, something that small to mess you up was so infuriating. I did feel robbed at the time. However, I wasn't going to let that keep me down, because I do know all failure is feedback. So following that, we did analysis. We looked at what went right and what went wrong. And surprisingly, I thought it would ruin my Christmas, but it didn't. I still enjoyed it a lot. Spent time with some family. We're able to relax, unwind, and come back better. Going into 2026 now, I'm ready to crush it. But yeah, and I think another thing I realized after all that was experience the worst case scenario allows you to get so much feedback, and technically there's not another time where you will ever get that much feedback. And with feedback, what can you do? Make better decisions. So don't ever fear making a bad decision or something going wrong, because 9 times out of 10, you can just do it better next time. Do everything you can and prepare well. Completely understand that. But at some point you have to jump off the bridge, and you probably won't die unless you actually are jumping off a bridge. I wouldn't recommend that. But in a hypothetical sense, you have to jump off. 9 times out of 10, you'll be fine. So if you're ambitious but fear failure, think less, change your perspective on what failure actually is, and play out the worst case scenario. And with all of that, you should be able to achieve your goals in record time. Catch you soon. Bye.